Do you fancy buying an all-electric Range Rover for 27.5 grand? I mean, you'd be mad not to, right?
Oh, Nick.
Oh, thanks. Oh, it's Jaecoo's E5. That adds up.
Now, if you've never heard of the brand, it's Chinese, of course, and it's part of the same company as Omoda. They were launched earlier this year in the UK, and you're starting to see a few of them on the roads. The Omoda electric car is also called the E5, which causes chaos on the Electrifying website listings, but presumably saves money on the badges or something. It's quite clear you're not going to mistake this for a real Range Rover, but there is no doubt the designers have certainly, shall we say, been inspired by the car.
Especially the front, the rear, and the side. Now, there is a fine line when it comes to inspiration and plagiarism, one that I definitely walked to at university. What side of the line do you think Jaecoo are on with this?
Besides the Range Rover looks, the main attraction of the Jaecoo E5 is the price. It starts at £27,505, which is the same sort of price as something like a Ford Puma or Renault 4. It even undercuts Omoda's E5. Anyway, let's see what you get for the money inside.
Right, let's take a look inside, shall we? Because I think you are going to be very, very happy in here. A, you can tell I'm reclined, it's comfortable. B, your attention is drawn to this ginormous digital display. According to Jaecoo, this is the biggest portrait display in a car, period. 13.2 inches worth. And I must say it's very nice. Originally, I didn't really like how it's kind of slightly facing up, but I've got used to that now. And it is very, very responsive. It's quick. It's relatively intuitive to use. Down here, no physical buttons for climate, but you do have a constant display for your climate control, which is nice and easy to use. The Apple CarPlay and Android Auto was also really easy. I synced to my phone very quickly with Apple CarPlay and got on the road using my Google Maps, nice and fast. We have space for you and your passengers to store their phone, wireless charging on one side, and a lovely little bit of ventilation so your phone will not overheat, which is actually really useful. Seats are comfy, and you'll notice that they are perforated, which helps with the ventilation. So they not only do they heat up, but they also cool you. Now, when it comes to practicality and storage, you've got a little storage area down here. You've got some charging ports, 2 cup holders, a little storage bin down here, your little spot for your owner's manual down there. But all in all, it just feels quite spacious, light and airy. I suppose one slightly annoying thing is they've still managed to find a spot to put some piano black, but at least it's not where you're going to be touching things. There's only 3 buttons. Okay, so that's a small niggle, but overall, hopefully you're not actually going to be putting your greasy mitts down there. And then there's a little bit of shiny plastic up here, but overall the touch points do feel quite nice. This is nice, isn't it? A little bit of wood finish there on the door. Now, let me point out that this is the luxury spec. So you do have to fork out an extra £3,000, which pushes the price to just over £30,000. But you get a lot of extras. Let me begin. A panoramic sunglass, the power sunshade, LED headlights, 2-zone air conditioning, power tailgate, acoustic and thermal installation of the front hatch, load-bearing roof rails, multicolour ambient light, a heated steering wheel, pet-friendly eco-leather, power-adjusted, ventilated and heated driver and passenger seat, a soft upholstered dashboard, a rear bench armrest with integrated cup holders, a Sony 8-speaker audio system, a mobile phone 50-watt cooled wireless charging, front and boot 12V sockets, and pet mode, which means the car stays the temperature you want so your pet will not overheat when you abandon them to go shopping.
Now, most worryingly, there is also an onboard karaoke, which uses an under-bonnet speaker. Now, I think this is going to be very popular with a certain presenter.
Do you believe in love after love? I can feel something inside me say I I really don't think it's strong enough. No, thank you, Wembley. Thank you.
You also get vehicle to load, letting you power kettles, fridges or hairdryers from the car if you happen to be in the middle of a field.
Now back here there isn't maybe quite as much room as I was hoping. This is set to my driving position, and at 5'8", I haven't got loads of room. It's still very comfortable. Seats are nice. You've got 2 sets of Isofix back here. You have the trusty cup holders. Old school USB port, not USB-C, just USB. That makes it feel a bit old, which is unusual. I would have thought this should have been packed with technology. But what it is very light and airy back here because you've got this massive glass panoramic roof. You also have this extra window back here, which brings in some more light, and there is decent headroom. So where you might not have tons of legroom, everything else makes it feel very spacious.
In the boot, there's 480 litres, which is bigger than a Kia EV3, Hyundai Kona, and even pips the MG S5 EV. It's bigger than the Renault 4 too, but it can't beat the Puma. Not many cars can. Under the floor is a 61.1 kilowatt hour battery, which is an LFP. For all you geeks out there, it gives an official range of 248 miles, which is pretty good for a battery of this size and price. The Puma is 233 miles, Renault 4 247, and the smaller batteried MG S5 just 211.
So far, this Jaecoo is sounding pretty good, right? Well, the real test is going to be how it drives, so it is time now to put it through its paces. Now, in terms of facts and stats, we are talking 0 to 62 miles an hour in a not too shabby 7.7 seconds, which actually is pretty impressive. Brake horsepower 204, which is probably more than enough. But I think despite the size, it actually feels really agile. It's nice and nippy, and it's got that, obviously, that instant acceleration that you get with electric cars. So we are off to a good start. The downside, I would say, is that the suspension is quite hard. We've been on all roads, country lanes, B roads, motorway, and I would say that you can kind of feel pretty much all the imperfections, every lump and bump. So for, again, maybe the expectations on a car like this is that it would be quite a smooth drive. Maybe alter your expectations on that one. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the Regen braking. Obviously, we're big fans of Regen braking, particularly one-pedal driving in the city, and it does have that capability. It doesn't bring you to a complete standstill, but it is pretty strong. If you can choose 3 different modes for Regen. But there's a weird quirk to it. When you have the Regen braking on, even if you've got the same pressure on the throttle, on the accelerator, if you are going downhill, the Regen braking kicks in, so it slows you down. And it doesn't always just happen when you're going downhill either. It just happens at kind of random times. So when you have exactly the same pressure applied to the accelerator, the Regen braking can kick in, which is a bit strange.
Because the Regen does have that quirk, I would probably drive this car without the Regen on at all, which is a shame.
In the lovely presentation that we had before we got the keys to the E5, they were telling us about the silent glass that this car boasts, so that you have very little wind noise and a silent cabin. Not sure about it. It's definitely not silent, obviously. I mean, everything's 100% silent, but I'm not even sure if it's that quiet. You can still hear the wind noise. As soon as you go above kind of 30, 40 miles an hour, you do visibly notice a difference. So maybe for lower speeds, the silent glass is working. Higher speeds, not so much.
Now, we know you're not all looking for a new EV, and that is why we have built our very own used EV marketplace on electrifying.com. It's packed with great deals and details like battery warranties, so you can buy with confidence. All you've got to do is scan the QR code on screen to browse while you keep watching. Now, what I will say is that, look, if you are a driving enthusiast and driving dynamics is number one priority, well, A, you're probably not going to be looking at like a car like this to start with, and B, if you are, this car is not for you. You know, that's not necessarily been the priority when it comes to building a car like this for a budget like that. Pretty sure most of my friends, most of the people I work with outside of the motoring world would not notice the driving dynamics of this. It's perfectly acceptable, it's really quite enjoyable, it's relatively smooth, the suspension could be a bit softer, but I think for most people this is going to tick pretty much most of the boxes when it comes to how it feels when you're on the road. Now, on this drive, we have been averaging 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour on a cold autumn day, which actually is pretty close to the claimed 4.06 miles per kilowatt hour. The maximum charging capability is 80 kilowatts on a DC point, which is distinctly average, meaning it will take over half an hour to get to 80% from anywhere near empty. All the rivals I can think of are faster.
Now, I've been thinking about a bit of an analogy when it comes to how this Jaecoo looks. I mean, effectively on the outside, it is trying to be the Range Rover. On the inside, it's not. Underneath, it's not. So the question is, would you go into Zara and buy a bag that looks like a Hermes bag, but is not in fact a Hermes bag, and wander around with a bag pretending to be a Hermes bag, but not being one? Or would you go into Zara and just buy a completely different bag? Now, I am of the mindset I would just buy a completely different bag. I don't want a copycat. If I can't buy the real thing, I don't want the real thing. And I'm not going to try and pretend I've got the real thing when everyone knows that I haven't. So if you want a Range Rover, but you can't afford a Range Rover, don't go and buy something that looks like one. Just go for something completely different. Right, conclusion time. Now, the big attraction of this car is going to be the price, right? I mean, nothing else offers the combination of range and space for the same cost, although we do have to wait and see what the lease and PCP monthlies come out as, because they will depend on the resale value, which haven't actually been rock solid on the current Omoda and Jaecoo models. But once the prices have got you in the showroom, you're going to sit in it, play with all the buttons, you're going to be impressed. But you have got to drive it. Go out, take it for a test drive, compare it to some rivals and see what you think. You know, you might not actually be that bothered that the dynamics are a little bit wayward. And if that's the case, well, enjoy your Jaecoo and the £75,000 that you will have saved by not buying the Range Rover. My gift to you.